Ooh, hello. So, a new video today. It's gonna be about a teacher discussing why she quit teaching. So let's get to it right here.
Some rants during my planning period. I'm in a classroom right now. Go Bulldogs. And this will not be my classroom after Friday. I am actually leaving the profession. I am quitting. Well, actually, I did quit, but Friday is my last day. I think we have a month left of school after that, and I will not be the teacher in this classroom.
What? uh, this lady just I don't even know what she's gonna say yet, but already just her attitude already don't like it. There's a little bit of entitlement to it. There's a little bit of just like I don't think she got into teaching for any of the right reasons, just based off body language and the way she's speaking so far. Go Bulldogs, like you're proud of the school. And then the whole flippant attitude. No, I don't trust this woman.
I've recorded a video like this several times, but I think that instead of just
She trying to turn on the tears already. She said she recorded videos like this several times. All of a sudden she's turning on the tears already with a little bit of manipulation. I don't trust this woman, man. Everything she does, I just don't trust her.
completely putting it's not even my school, but just how education is these days on blast. There is one issue I really want to talk about as an educator who is leaving, that I feel like a lot of people have tried.
Technology's ruining your child's education. No, that is in fact not true. Technology is not ruining children's education. Technology is ruining teachers' education plans. For instance, if you have a plan to teach a kid a certain thing in a certain way, like, for instance, reading a book, sitting down in a classroom, and filling out pages or listening to a lesson, technology can interfere with that because it can provide kids with a distraction that they can possibly hide from the teacher. So technology is ruining teaching plans, not education.
To address, but school boards and superintendents and people who actually can make this true difference in their school districts aren't listening. I actually wrote basically what felt like an essay in my exit survey for this county. And what I really want to talk about is how technology.
Okay, so she pretty much just admitted to being a Karen. She gave them a strongly worded letter to management. She's a Karen.
Technology is ruining education. So in my county, every student in the county, I believe from 6th grade through 12th grade, gets their own district or county distributed iPad. Every kid gets an iPad for the school year, and they are to turn it back in at the end of the school year, and then they get it back in August or whenever.
Yeah, that sounds great. It should be able to aid with teaching if the iPad actually aids with the teaching lessons. Do they have an accompanying technology to aid with teaching that's actually on the iPad, or did it just have random iPads that just pulls up whatever the lesson is that the teacher is reading off and well rehearsed because the teacher taught the same class repeatedly and they just have their teaching material memorized and the kid is just supposed to follow along on the iPad and the kid is just bored and they're just like, swipe out of this program and go into a different program on the iPad. Is that what's happening?
We come back. I have seen a, where to even begin? A lot of what I'm going to talk about is a little bit drawn from other videos I have seen, but it opened my eyes to so many things, and I have been wondering why the technology sucked so much and why I hated it. And for a while, because I'm an English teacher as of this moment right now, but before I taught English, I was in a computer lab and I taught digital.
English should be the easiest thing to teach. It's the language you speak. It's the way you communicate with the children. The lesson is pretty much reinforced in the teaching. And English is pretty much what the internet is, just, especially in America and most Western countries, the internet is in English. How is this not aiding with your lessons, lady?
Digital arts. I taught a class called multimedia, which was to teach students how to use like word processing programs.
I had a multimedia class in one of my college classes, and it's useless. It's pretty much useless. It just tells you, oh, there's a bunch of different programs that you can use to do the same thing, and it's kind of like an academics approach to the internet based on teaching people that are like that are pretty much boomers. Basically, it's kind of useless.
PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, and other just online tools that
and that's another problem with the multimedia classes, is that a lot of those, I mean, the internet is always changing and new programs come along, and structure changes. Different companies create a different website to do the same thing but better, and they, you know what I mean, they're constantly changing. So whatever lessons you get, it's you're gonna have to throw it in the dumps and learn something new.
Need to know about. And I have taught a little bit of computer science. I'm not really computer science savvy, but it was an introductory course and I could teach them a little bit of coding. That's not the point.
Why did you bring it up if that's not the point? I mean, she says on there that she yaps a lot, but come on, lady.
I hated technology because kids were iPad kids growing up and they just have too much access to games. And
I hate this argument that children aren't learning because they have too much access to technology and all of that. That doesn't make sense. Children learn. That's like their default setting. They're just set to learn. In fact, people start doing certain behaviors around children because they're afraid of them learning it. They're literally primed to learn. All you have to do is teach them. So, in order to teach them, you have to get their attention in a way and provide and present the information in a way that's actually useful to them or helpful. What current teaching programs are trying to do, instead of adapting to the changing landscape, what they're trying to do is maintain a system that they've used for a long time. The reason that blackboards got introduced into classrooms for a very long time and has been maintained for a long time is because the only way that they had to actually show the information was to actually write it on a board. Well, now you can have like a projector, you can have a screen or whatever the hell, and present the exact same information in a much more organized way. But every classroom still have a blackboard. Teachers still write stuff on blackboard. I guess if it's a math class, I can understand. But for most classes, it's pretty much useless. And that's the kind of thing that they keep trying to maintain. They keep trying to maintain a program that they know. They know how to do this program. They know how to structure this lesson according to this plan. They don't know how to adapt. And that is the problem. The problem isn't with the students. It isn't with the children having too much access to technology. It's with the teachers not knowing how to use the technology to teach.
And entertainment, and they don't want to use technology for education. They want to use it for entertainment. And to a degree, that is true. But what I am learning is more than that, and that technology is directly contributing to the literacy decrease we are seeing in this country right now. A lot of the
literacy, a certain level of literacy was necessary for a long time. It was necessary for a long time because certain academic job fields were available and were very useful and very helpful, especially, I would say, maybe 40 years ago when most of the things were on paper. You know what I mean? Not a lot was on computers. A lot of things was on paper. People had to type up stuff. They actually had typewriters and all that kind of stuff. And you don't have proofreading. You don't have AIs and all that stuff. You actually have to have people to do those jobs. Now, those jobs, not really necessary. A lot of them could be removed completely. They could just get a computer program to do their proofreading or just set up a plan or whatever the hell and just send out memos to a bunch of different people. A lot of those jobs are no longer available. See, this is the thing that people seem to forget, is that education was very much tied to job fields, right? The reason literacy rates among children are going down is because the literature, the sort of levels that they're trying to get the children to meet is not necessary. It's not reinforced in their daily lives. Their parents aren't like that. The people that they meet on the street aren't like that. Most people don't talk like that. So if you taught them to speak in a certain way or learn a certain thing, they'll never use it. They'll never hear it. They'll never have to remember it. They'll never have to Google it. It'll never be applied. So they just forget it. That's what schooling is. They do it for a little bit. They do enough to pass the classes, and when the classes is over, they forget everything. They forget literally every single thing because they never use that information again. So literacy rates are falling naturally. It's falling naturally because it's no longer needed for people to reach a certain level. Okay?
These kids don't know how to read because they have had things read to them, or they can click a button and have something read out loud to them.
Exactly. It's not practical. People, they have this sort of ridiculous standard that doesn't meet with reality. Just having knowledge for the sake of having knowledge is pointless. We don't need a bunch of people to speak properly when it's useless for them. They don't have to communicate in a proper way. They're not scientists. They're not a bunch of scientists and literature professors walking around in their daily lives. It's not necessary. Stop being elitist. It's not necessary, so people don't use it. Stop holding them to a standard that you can't maintain. And this is another thing that you're not considering. The teachers aren't as literate. The teachers aren't as literate, so, and the lessons that they're teaching is not even up to that standard. So why would the students need to learn something and that they don't have to apply? Are they going to get questions on a test that's going to require a high level of literacy rate in order to pass it or even understand it or read it? No. It's going to be basic questions, probably multiple choice.
In seconds, their attention spans are weaning because everything is high stimulation. They can just scroll, watch less than a minute. They can't sit still for very long.
You can't sit still for very long. Literally during this video, you keep twitching on your seat. You know why that is? It's unnatural for people. People aren't designed to sit still for long periods of time. What you want is a robot, not a student.
Something I've realized is, like, on a day, I know when I was their age, I thought movie days were a treat. I loved movie days. It was
Because the teaching environment was different when you were a child. The technology levels was different. You would be doing the exact same thing if you had the technology that they have access to. If you grew up in an environment that they did. I don't understand why people do this. I'm an old man myself. You know what I mean? But what I do not compare my experience as a kid to how children are today, because it's weird. It's a weird thing to do. First of all, you don't remember most of your childhood. And second of all, you idealize what your childhood was like. You think that's how things should be because that's how it was when I was a kid. That's not how the world works.
a way to relax, kind of take a break. And for them, what they mean when they say they want a movie is they want a movie on in the background for the noise while they scroll on their phones, put their headphones in and look at TikTok and maybe talk to their friends and not pay attention to anything.
Yes. Yes. I remember, I can't remember what class it was, but when I was in high school, we had a movie day and they were showing, I think it was like Amistad or whatever one of those slave movies were. And I I was looking out the window. I was like taking out my notebook and drawing stuff. It is pointless. You learn nothing. Movies aren't interesting anymore. And if they are interesting, the children probably already saw it.
Whenever I do have a movie day, I can count on one hand the amount of students in all 3 classes that I teach throughout the day who maybe actually pay attention to the movie. It's frustrating and it's disheartening.
Why does that frustrate you? Because you are failing as a teacher, ma'am. But you identify the problem as with the student and not with you. You have to adapt how you teach. Teaching, all right, here's what schools are designed to do. Schools are designed to teach students, not provide a lesson plan and have the students follow it. Schools aren't designed to make the students adapt to the teacher. The teacher has to adapt to the student because you're the one providing them with a service.
Because if I ask a child to handwrite something, even just a paragraph, 5 sentences, basic paragraph, they roll their eyes,
Yes. If you asked me to do that, I would be pissed off. What is weird about that? What did you expect them to do? Be joyful at having to write a bunch of nonsense?
throw tantrums. I'm talking about high schoolers. I teach 10th grade now. They get really, really unruly. And because I'm young too, they want to argue with me about it. And
Yes, I would argue with you about it. As a grown man, I would be pissed off. What is weird about that? Why do you not have the common sense available to recognize that that is exactly what would have happened before you did it?
they want to say, why can't we just type it? Why can't we just type it? Well, it's because you'll go on another website or you'll copy it or use AI.
Why would they need to be better at writing instead of better at typing? What age do you live in? Typing is a much better and more useful skill than writing nowadays. You clown. Oh my God.
You'll use ChatGPT. And I understand that
No, you don't.
Our world is going in a direction where AI is going to be more prevalent, even in the workforce someday.
Not just AI. Any job. You work for the government, you have to type up a bunch of stuff. You work anything, you have to send emails. It doesn't matter where you work, you're going to be typing. You're going to be on your phone typing up something to text somebody. It is much more useful than writing. People don't write letters to each other. You don't have to write anything. Unless you have a specific job that requires you to write, you're not going to be writing. So no, you don't understand the world is changing. You're an idiot. I don't know how you got a job as a teacher, but you're not qualified.
That still doesn't take away that these are basic skills you need to survive.
Basic skills for what? Why would you need to be able to write in order to survive? I don't get these people. They live in the real world, but when they come to actually applying knowledge, they seem to only apply it to a world that doesn't exist. These are literal skills you need in order to survive. Where? Not in a third world country, and definitely not in a first world country. You don't need these skills to survive at all.
I think I am technically considered an older Gen Z. So I'm a 99 baby. I was born on the cusp, I think. I don't actually know the cutoff, but I do think I am mostly a Gen Z. And I think I grew up in a time when history was still important. Learning what the Declaration of Independence was still important. Knowing how to...
Even back then, it was not important. Unless you're going to work in government or you're going to be a lawyer, it's not important. People still don't know it today. People didn't know it back then. It was only important to the teachers. The teachers thought it was important, so they wanted to teach it. It wasn't important to the students.
Understand the amendments, and I'm bringing up history because this is stuff that I feel like every American needs to understand the value of. And if you can't read, and if you don't care to read or learn the vocabulary or learn your context clues, you're never going to understand it, and therefore it's never going to mean anything to you.
So you're complaining that the children aren't patriotic enough? Is that what your complaint is? The reason they don't care to learn any of these things is because most people don't pay attention to politics, and especially children who can't even vote.
And you're never going to have real opinions. And
real opinions? How did I know she was an elitist? Before she even started speaking, I already knew she was entitled. I already knew she was, oh my God.
Be able to understand and formulate why laws and certain governing structures make sense and why we have the right.
It doesn't. It literally doesn't make sense. And it's intentionally designed to not make sense. They literally created a whole different type of language called legalese just so the common people can't understand what they're putting into laws. What are you talking about, woman? You don't exist in the real world. In your mind, when you form opinions, you're not living in the real world. And you are the person responsible for educating people. You weren't even educated properly.
To vote, why this stuff is important, and I just don't think these kids even care. They don't care about making a difference in the world. They don't care about how to have a resume. They don't care how to write a resume. They don't care how to write a cover letter because ChatGPT.
Adults don't even know how to write a resume. Why would the kids need to? You're so stupid. You're so stupid. Resumes are going to get to the point where it's all automated, and the only thing people have to do is just put in their goddamn what their exact information, right? It would be like a box for qualification, and they just put all their stuff into there. It's the world is changing, and you're not changing with it.
People just do it for them. And I think that we need to cut off technology from these kids.
No, no, that is a terrible idea. That is a terrible idea. You're artificially creating an environment for which the children need to learn to adapt to. That is divorced from the reality that they exist in. That is not a good thing. I know you think it's a good thing. I know you think that now that they're paying attention to you, now that they're listening to you, now that they're respecting you, that it's a good thing. But it's not a good thing for the students. Simply not. They need to learn how to apply the knowledge that they're going to use in the real world. So they have to learn based on the environment that they're going to encounter in the real world, which is going to be filled with technology.
Probably until they go to college. Call me old-fashioned. I will be old-fashioned.
You're not old-fashioned. You're old-fashioned stupid.
But we are at the point where I really don't have a lot of faith in some of these kids that I teach.
I don't have faith in you as a person that was educated. You're stupid. I'm not just insulting you. You're exactly stupid. You have all the knowledge, you have all the information in front of you, but yet your opinion that you formed was completely off base. It is so wrong. You're trying to figure out how to teach. You're a teacher. You're trying to figure out how to teach these children, and your analysis is that children aren't designed to be taught. Your analysis is you need to remove things from the children in order for them to learn better. Your analysis is the problem is the children, and you don't have faith that they're going to learn the things that they need to learn. The problem isn't the students, woman. You are the teacher. Your job is to teach. They're the students. They have an obligation to learn. Their job isn't to learn. They don't have a job. They're not being paid. They're not even supposed to be responsible because they're children. You're the one that's failing your job. You are. Fix you.
That doesn't go for all. I have several kids across all the classes I have taught this school year alone that I think have really bright futures ahead of them and who want to succeed and who want to try really hard. And then kids who I feel like the older generations have failed them because they haven't emphasized to them enough that learning how to read and write and use basic mathematic skills is important. They haven't emphasized that to them. And so these kids,
they have emphasized that to them. The problem is it's wrong. It is simply wrong. Basic math is no longer basic math. What people are calling basic math is something other than just knowing how to add, subtract. Reading and writing is no longer as important as it used to be. Those things were important because of the environment. You need to teach people things that they actually need to learn and call that basic. The things that people need to learn nowadays, that should be basic, not the things that you want them to learn.
just have these devices in their hands that they think will get them through the rest of their life, and they're failing in life and in my class.
How are they failing in life? They're only failing in your classes. You're stupid. You're stupid. And that is a problem. You shouldn't be educating people.
So if anyone who has the power to make a difference in school districts across the country, I really hope that you hear not even just me, but the billions of...
Yes. Anyone that has the power, what they need to do is fire these useless teachers and get actual good educators to teach your children. Anyways, until next time.